This
pretty small.
conference will now be recorded.
I'm going to show you a series of pictures, and you might wonder why. They seem irrelevant to what we're talking about, but I'll put them up and we can have a bit of a discussion because I think they're useful. So just a background on the first one. We recently wanted to buy a new coffee table, and the living area that it's going to go in is fairly square. And we wanted to know what would look best there. A long skinny one or a short fat one. You know, two totally different sizes for the area in which they were going. And it was quite hard. Yeah, lovely. We looked in the catalogue. That's the really amazing catalogue, you know, of coffee tables. So what should we do? What would look best? Well, we thought maybe we'd like to see the short, fat one with a green top. So what we did was move that green top and put it on top of the other one. Pretty simple, isn't it? But you say, yes, but you changed the size of that top, didn't you? No, I didn't. In actual fact, those two tables are identical in the size and shape. And if you are a little bit skeptical about that, you can come up afterwards and have a look at this wonderful furniture catalogue that I have here. And you can take the top off and you can put it on that one there. And you'll see that they are absolutely identical. What about this one? It's not a top for the coffee table, incidentally. But as you can see, there's nice, even black and white parallel lines going this way, all about the same size. And there's blue lines that zigzag across over the top. Have you guessed it? Those blue lines are absolutely parallel. They are exactly evenly spaced from one end to the other. Once again, you can come and have a look up close. I don't know, you could try squinting really hard. It might make a difference. It might be too big a picture, but come and have a look close and squint and you'll see something very different. Well, perhaps sitting on top of the coffee table, we might like some chocolate. I don't think this is really chocolate, but if you can ignore the strip through the center where there's a bright white light on the bottom one and the shadow on the top one, those two pieces of chocolate, milk chocolate and white chocolate, they are the same color. What about this one? Who'd like to volunteer what they can see in this picture? Anybody like to give it a guess? A green apple and a brown beer. Very good. It was actually black in the printing, but it hasn't come out. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Green apple and a brown beer. Can anybody see the third item? It's the one that takes up 98% of the picture, the pale blue background. Anybody miss that? Yeah, you all did. Okay. So these little series of pictures I've shown you, I think, have a value to them in looking at Matthew chapter 7 and verse 1 and verse 2. I think there's some lessons there. What would we think is the common theme through those pictures? Illusion? Yeah, that's a good one. Things are not always what they seem. Yeah, pretty good. My thought was that we only saw what we wanted to see. We made an immediate judgment at just a very short look at those pictures. We were perhaps too impatient to take in the whole thing. Or perhaps we saw something that wasn't there. And here's an example of just that. Now, can anybody see a word there? Nobody can see a word? Oh, you can see a word. Okay. So words are made up of letters, right? But there's no letters up there at all. There are no letters. It's just this an even coloured background with some black objects all arranged in a certain way. But if you have a look, there's no letters there. Your brain is telling you that there are letters there because the black shadow gives that indication. But there's no outline to tell you that those letters, if you have a close look, it's just all blends into the background. So you saw something that wasn't there, didn't you? You came to a conclusion, and yeah, it gives us a message, but the point is you saw something that wasn't there. We often see something that isn't the complete picture, or we hear something that isn't the full story, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there's a problem if we take those bits of part information as foundations and build theories or stories on top of those things. And that, I believe, is where the process of judging begins. We start to make judgments based on inadequate information or false information or what we would like to think is true. And that's the kind of judging that Jesus does not want us to engage in. And there's many good reasons why. We probably can think of occasions in the media. This happens frequently in the media where somebody, a reporter or somebody, will get hold of a little bit of information that might put somebody else in a bad light. There might be an accusation. There might be a rumour, whatever. And the media will put it out there into the public arena and they'll, do you know, are you aware of what so-and-so did? And these are the accusations against that person. And they'll go on and they'll build this big story without having been, there's been no investigation, there's been no official, sort of police reports or parliamentary reports or whatever it might be. Whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. They just put it out there. And that person is guilty until proven innocent. And unfortunately, that's the way of the world, to paint other people in a bad light. If they can just get this tiny little snippet of information that makes somebody else look bad. And to me, that's a really vicious assault on people. Now, we can do the same sort of thing. We can form an opinion and we can pass it on to somebody else. And we might say, yeah, but it's not really that bad. It's just a little bit of information. What's in it for us? Our intention may not be to hurt someone, but wow, don't we feel good? Don't we feel really great that we can pass on something about somebody else? And it makes me so good compared to them. It makes me superior to them. We elevate our own goodness. And so there's risks for us if we engage in that kind of behaviour. The worst thing we can do for the other person is to destroy them. It may not, but it may. Is it worth the risk? There's an interesting case in Joshua chapter 22 where Israel, having crossed the Jordan and conquered the 7 nations of Canaan, generally, there was still some tidying up to do. They'd gone over there, and by a prior arrangement, 2.5 tribes went back to live on the other side, on the eastern side of Jordan. They'd already sorted this out, that was fine, as long as they helped with the cleanup to start with. And the first thing they did was build an altar right next to the river, right next to the Jordan. And it was an exact copy of the official altar over the other side. And it was quite clear. God had said, and it had been relayed so many times, don't build another altar to sacrifice on. You go to this place to sacrifice. You don't sacrifice elsewhere. And so the 9.5 tribes that were living on the western side, they got to hear of this, and what did they do? What was their immediate reaction? Right, strap on your guns, your swords, your whatever you've got. We're going to go over to the other side and we're going to slaughter them. We're going to totally get rid of our brothers over the other side because they've broken faith, they've done what God says, they've been disobedient, and there's no cure. Let's just slaughter them all, and that will be the problem done. And it was just based on a bit of information. So off they went, and they said, but before we destroy them, we'll give them a really good talking to, and we'll tell them how bad they are, and then we'll destroy them, and so on. And fortunately, somebody had the intelligence and the goodness to hang on, let's ask, why did you do this? And the 2.5 tribes said, no, it's not for sacrificing. It's a witness. So that, decades down the track, all you people that have crossed over Jordan and live over there might say, the other people on the other side, they don't belong to Israel. So they don't share in any of the benefits. They don't belong to us. And they said, we've got a witness. Look, here's our altar. It's just like yours. And that was all they were going to do, have it there as a witness. So, the whole 2.5 tribes could have been just destroyed based on a rumour or based on a bit of information. Destroying others, of course, doesn't have to be done with guns and bombs. My thoughts today are not because I think we have a problem here in PK. It's not about that. Well, we do have a problem. We've got human nature. And human nature tends to want to make ourselves good and better than other people. We naturally just want to feel superior. And Jesus pointed out that is a problem, and the apostles through the New Testament point out that's not the way to live. Jesus said, take the plank out of your own eye, then you can see clearly to get the speck out of your brother's eye. And I know this is a bit exaggerated, but there's the point. He's trying to look through a big plank to see something in his brother's eye. And logically, that's nonsense. But in reality, that's what we can easily do if we're not careful. And Jesus didn't make up rules just to be the boss, just to make life difficult. Jesus didn't talk about these things because, he just, you got to do it my way. I think he taught the people, he was teaching the people, he was demonstrating how he lived his life. He was encouraging. He was supportive. He was all about building up and not pulling down. And Peter writes in, Paul writes in his letter to the Philippians. He says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself." And that's quite a contrast to what we naturally want to do, isn't it? We are called the temple. You know, we are the temple that's being built. And Jesus was the foundation stone. And on that stone, we are being built as lively stones, it says. And it's not going to work if we keep knocking the bricks out of the wall. If we keep knocking down instead of building up, what's going to happen to the project? The bottom line of what Jesus taught is based on love. And if, for those of us who were here last Sunday or online, we recall Zach reading 1 Corinthians 13, which is, you know, what we call the love chapter. I just thought, let's have a look at just a few of the aspects of what love is. Love is kind. And so we say, okay, is spreading rumours about other people kind? You know, whether they're true or not, is that kind? Love does not boast. Well, isn't showing up somebody else's weaknesses or wrongdoings, isn't that boasting about how good I am? Because, hey, I'd never do that. Love is not proud. We recall the story that Jesus told about the publican and the Pharisee. And the Pharisee standing there, "Oh Lord, I thank you that I'm nothing like this guy over here. He's a bad egg. Look at me." Love keeps no record of wrongs. And yet, once we put things out there into the public arena and more people pass it on, yeah, look at the long list. Look at the long list that can grow out of that. Love always protects, not stabs us in the back, protects us. And perhaps one of the greatest things, and it's not in 1 Corinthians 13, but it's elsewhere in a number of places. And a good example of Peter's writing, above all, love each other deeply, not just on the surface, not just say, yeah, I love you. Love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sins. Okay, do we say then, well, what does that mean? Do we just hide them so we pretend they never existed? That's a good covering, you know, let's just hide them out of sight. No, of course it isn't. The covering is all about the forgiving work and the power of Jesus' love, his sacrifice, what he did for us, and sins properly covered, properly dealt with, properly atoned for. Jesus said, if your brother sins against you, and I think if we see somebody that's done something that we think is wrong, a sin, it mightn't affect us, it might be something that they've done, you know, out there. It's as much against us as it is against God, I think, because it affects us and it affects our unity and our fellowship. And he said, you go and talk to them, just the two of you. He didn't say, tell the world. He said, just, you know, just the two of you. Because once things have been put out there, once they've been said, they cannot be unsaid. we will always remember them. So I believe that the thing that Jesus was doing when he said, those two verses there, don't judge because you'll be judged in the same way, and everything will be the same for you and you and you and you. No matter what you do, it's going to be the same. I think what he was doing was pulling together the principles, the godly principles, to show that, and there's an expression that people use these days, been around for a long time. It's not a scriptural one, it's a scriptural ideal and a scriptural principle, but it's not a verse or something we can quote directly. But the expression, there but for the grace of God go I. Now, I could be in that same position as that brother or sister that we've seen or aware of doing something that we think is wrong. I could be doing that. So be careful what we say and how we say it. I think Jesus was just trying to pull together all the principles that say respect, love, care, sympathy, build up, treat other people better than ourselves. Don't boast. And there's another saying that is scriptural. Well, no, once again, it comes from scripture, but it's mostly misquoted. The quote is, pride goes before destruction. And most people say pride goes before a fall. No, pride goes before destruction. A fall you can recover from, but destructions sounds pretty, that's it, done for. So remember that pride goes before destruction. And Jesus wanted to put that point across. The judging that Jesus was talking about when he says, don't judge, I think was about judging other people, but it was not about judging behavior or speech or actions. Once we know the full story and see the full picture, we mustn't do anything until we know the full story. But once we do, it's about the people's behavior, our brothers and sisters, not the person, but what they do or what they've said. We have to make judgments. That's part of life. We have to make judgment calls about so many different things. We have to make decisions about right and wrong, about sin or not sin, about what is acceptable and not acceptable. Call it out. If it's sin, call it out. Make a judgment. That's not what Jesus was saying. He was talking about how we treat other people when we are aware of something that we don't agree with. Stand for something or you'll fall for anything. I like that saying. I don't know where it originated, but actually, it's quite strongly, there's a place in, I think it might be Deuteronomy, where that sentiment is put forward. Stand for something or you'll fall for anything. So Jesus explained the consequences of judging others, and he says it's going to be equal rights for all of you. Whatever you do, it'll be done for you. If you do it well, it'll be done well for you. If you hurt other people, wear the consequences. How would we like Jesus to publicly name and shame us out there, put our name and our wrongdoings out in front of millions of people? But instead, there is quietness, quiet forgiveness, forgiveness that is unknown to most of us because it's just between us and him. Nobody else needs to know. between you and him alone. And his ways must be our ways. And we remember how when he was falsely accused of all sorts of bad stuff, blasphemy and sin and wrongdoing, remember how silent he was. He just sat there and said nothing. Jesus said, don't judge just by appearance, but judge correctly. Or the King James says, judge righteous judgment. So we have to make judgments, but it's about things, not about people. Jesus bore the weaknesses of each of us silently. And I think that's the way we have to look at other people, excluding, of course, between us and them alone. We have to respect, we have to encourage, we have to build up. Jesus said, I will personally do that for you, because building up is my business, not pulling down. So Jesus laid the foundation for the temple, us. He's laid that foundation. He's the cornerstone, the head, whatever we want to call it. And he's building up this building based on his love and his care for us. And we are fellow labourers of each other. We don't want to knock people off the job and send them sprawling so they can't work. We want people to work alongside us and build up. And I guess we say thank you, Lord Jesus, for teaching us how to do that, how to build up. And thank you for the sacrifice that you made in order to help us do that.
Thank you, Brother Steve, for his words this morning, reminding us of the importance of judging with integrity, that we should judge righteous judgment, because there will come a day, brothers and sisters, when we will each stand and give an account of ourselves before our judge, and his judgment is indeed a righteous judgment. This brings us to the central part of our meeting, brothers and sisters, a consideration and the memorial of the death and resurrection of our Lord Jesus. As an introduction, we'll take a short reading from Matthew chapter 26. Reading from verse 17, Now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, and they said to him, Where would you that we should prepare for you to eat the Passover? And Jesus replied, Go into the city to such a man and say to him, The Master says, My time is at hand, and I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples. So the disciples